Okay, so here's an update. Other than the mess in my room, I've got a top of the tent and the side panels stitched together. I've got the loops for the dongle put in, and the last thing I need to do on this, actually the last three things, we need to hem along the edges here, okay, and the back right here. We need to put the 4 patches, reinforced patch material at the corners.
Corner 1, 2, 3, and of course I can move it, 4 here.
The other thing we need to do, we need to put a guideline, so I'm going to attach one of these. So first I'm going to stitch the far end where the curvature is. I'm going to do a couple of lines, but I start here and then I move down, because this is a stretchy material. Whatever stretches I can cut off. Once it's on, you can do a couple of lines to reinforce it, which I'm going to do the spider or crisscross it or something. Okay, so you can see on both sides I've got an area here that's too big, it's flopping. I'm going to cut this off, and I'm just going to do this kind of spider web thing down to here, come back up and do one across, maybe 2. Okay, so final step, to hem all the doors and the roof panels. What I do is I do 2 stitches. I'll start, reinforce this a little bit, move along this edge first, go all the way around until the second side door. Turn around, reinforce there, and I'll come back on this side. This one needs a lot of threads, so check your spool just so you have enough. Don't forget, right here we're going to attach a guideline, so we're going to put a patch here and stitch it quite nicely. So this is how it looks on the outside. I find the hardest part for me was just painting it and creasing it with the iron. Once it's done, the stitching here is, you know, I mean, you gotta be careful, but it's pretty easy compared to the previous stitching, and it's just time consuming. After we do this, the last thing is putting the holder for guideline at the top, and the rings at the reinforcement spots at the doors and the corners. I have some webbing ready for that. And move on to the mesh and the tub, which I think will go a lot faster than this whole upper part of the tent. All right, getting to the first corner. I'll go slow here. Again, don't worry about reinforcing this corner here, because you will come back here on the way back. Okay, so I'm finishing the first stitch on hemming. I'm coming all around instead of one door. I went all around the tent, and I'm finishing the first stitch. Oops. So what I'm gonna do here is turn around, just gonna reinforce it by going back and forth a couple of times. So we've done the first part along here. Okay, came in here, reinforce this, and we're gonna come back and go close to this edge about this much, all the way back to the first door, all around the tent, and reinforcing each corner we pass. Just go back and forth twice, I think should be enough. Hemmed all the perimeter of the tent, and what I need to do is attach rings to the reinforced corners of the doors and the corners of the tent, and also put one of these to which we're going to connect a guideline. So like this. This is going to be the top of the tent on one side. Now I've attached this one already, as you can see. Just it's going to go through both doors and to the reinforcement patch. Okay, both doors and top. I've attached it from the crest, the hill of the roof, about 2 inches on this edge, or maybe 3 inches here, 3.5 for the actual plastic part. Okay, so just to follow up on what I'm doing here, these are the reinforced patches on the doors. I have these plastic rings, and I decided to put red webbing here. On the tent corners, I have to put a screen webbing with D-rings, metal D-ring. I figure I'll go with a metal one because it's a gram more or something, but it's a lot stronger. So anyways, just gonna finish this up. So we've got the mesh sides, which we had cut out earlier. We need to put in a zipper, do a reinforcement patch, and hem it. The rough material is going to go on the outside. Okay, so the second, the door is towards the camera. Okay, second patch on the door is going to be here, so it's going to be sandwiched in this pocket of tough material, which we're going to stitch here together. I'm just going to go, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the patch, just catch it on the outskirts, and then I'm going to zigzag across to capture the net tight. Don't stretch it, just make it flat, but don't stretch it. Otherwise it'll just pull it. I've got the patches put on, reinforcement patches for the trekking poles. Now I'm gonna have to ham the mesh before I install the zippers. There's a couple of things I'm gonna do here. One, because double folding it on this mesh could be messy, it's gonna be bunching up and all this. And to add some strength, I'm gonna add this little, I don't know what it's called, but it's kind of like a webbing, really thin. People use that for tailoring and whatnot, but it's polyester, is very strong. You could kind of see where, how it looks. I'm gonna stitch it to one side all throughout at the top, like along the line. Then I'm gonna fold it once, maybe stitch it again. Yeah, stitch it again, and then I'm gonna attach this to the roof of the tent, this whole side. I don't wanna fold it 3 times because I'm losing the material, and it's also doesn't have much strength on its own. This will add its strength, and also is gonna make it flatter and easier to attach. Now I calculated, if I put all over the top of the edges, all over the bottom of the edges, and on both sides of the panels and also the backs, that's gonna add about 22 grams in total. So less than an ounce, but it's gonna make my life a lot more easier to do. So to do this, so I'm gonna just not even pinning it. I'm just gonna start slow and add this to the mesh. I'm trying to lay it flat as possible. Machine doesn't pull it too much. So we finish attaching one side like this, okay? So next step is we're gonna fold it once. Okay, so second stitch on the mesh. I'm going closer to the edge, or at least trying to. And it's bunched up a little bit because of the curve at the top. So just go slow. The next step is to attach the zipper. Lay it out with an arc. Okay, I marked the 2 spots I'm going to connect. So this side is going to go on the outside. The top side is going to be on the outside towards the door. And I'm just going to lay it on top. I'm going to pin it so it stays in place. And I'm going to stitch it. Probably not as wide of a stitch, just along here, as close as I can to the zipper. Once it's stitched together, I'm gonna open the zipper up on one side, attach the slider, open it up, and then cut underneath, cut through. So understand it's going to be connected, and then I'm going to cut through. So what I'm doing here is I'm stitching the zipper on top of the mesh, and what I'm actually doing, I'm using the position that is closest out on the needle to the actual zipper. So what I do, I want to put one stitch as close as I can, because once we open it from the other side, I want it to be as close as possible so that there's no material that needs to be cut off. I'm also trying to keep this material as relaxed as possible, not stretched or anything like this. It's attached, and I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, all the way back up, and then do a second line on this one and come back with the second line here. See it? Now I decided to put a third one, maybe even put a fourth one. It's a lot more work, but what the hell, it's a big wider stitch and it's nice red color. So continuing with the mesh, stitch it on the ends so it's easier to fold, and also is going to be attached better to the tent. Okay, now we have finished stitching the zipper. That's how it looks on mine. I have 2 black seams on each side and 1 red one, wider stitch and thicker thread. Just visually it looks nice and interesting, and also just a little bit of reinforcement. Now the end I have stitched here. That's it's given one side so it doesn't slide off. The other one left open, which is like this. I stitched the ends here, but left it open to put the slider in. Like this, we're gonna put these on. Put the first one with the thinner end, and the second one is the opposite. Both zippers are gonna be facing each other with the wider end. The next thing we need to do, because remember the back we stitched onto the netting, so we need to cut this open. So I'm opening this up, and I'm opening this, notice, not in the center like this, but I put it a little bit off to the side. Now the other end's gonna have a little more of that netting sticking out. See here. So then you just trim with scissors on one side. It's gonna be easier. Okay. Right. Okay, we have the zippers put in, both of them, sliding. So what we need to do is to stitch close the zipper here so it doesn't open up. Okay, so we have our zipper, everything's working, we closed it in. Now we're gonna have to hem the bottom of this one. This is a heavier material, more waterproof, and I need to hem it on the outside and then cut out the corners to create kind of like a tub. I folded it twice and then I touched it with the iron to just keep it flat, and then I pinned it. The height of the tub is going to be about 18 centimeters or 8 inches or something like this. Yeah. The width of the tent, I think, is going to be about 50 inches in the end, so that's plenty of room for 2 people. so first side is done, and that's how it looks. Let me get the light. Looks good, both sides. All right, I'm gonna carry on. Then you take these 2 points where I created the lines, you put it together like this, and the bottom point is the corner of the drawn square. Right. So we're just gonna pin this for now. Okay. We just fold it like to one side. We're gonna cut this triangle part off. We don't need that. And I'm gonna use about 2 inches or 5 centimeters. All right, so now we're gonna cut this part off. And we're gonna fold this a few times like that. And that's gonna be our edge. And to that we can stitch a little webbing or something to attach a guideline or a shock cord. In my case, I think I'm gonna go with shock cord. So I did the first stitch just to catch the fabric together. Now I'm gonna do double folding to create this lip. Start at the top, and then so I can finish at the top as well. Don't worry about backing it up a couple of times because we're gonna go back to the same place and we're gonna reinforce it then. Go to the top this time, and I'm gonna reinforce it back and forth a few times. Maybe one below. That's it. 4 lines, so it's pretty strong. Fold it 3 times and we're done. So our tub is finished. Okay folks, the day has come where we finally put it all together. So we have our main tent roof and side panel doors. We've got the side mesh panels. We've got the tub for our ground, and we get foot and head mesh panels right here. Okay, an update here. I've attached the first side of the mesh, okay, and the foot box or the head box right there. Now I left this open, not attached yet, because I'm gonna stitch the top to the tent, the roof of the tent first, and then I'll adjust depending if this is slightly over or too short, then I can stretch it out towards it. Okay, the way I've attached it here, I attached it on the inside of the tub, so this is going to be like this. All right, so the outside, make sure your zipper is, the nice part is on the outside. Okay, and then that's how it looks here. You see 2 stitches, pretty strong thread, so it will hold, and that's how it looks. That's how it looks here. So all four sides of the mesh are attached, head box, foot box, and two sides. Now the next step is attaching to the main part of the tent. Starting point is on the reinforcement patches. And the first thing we're going to do is just to catch it a few times back and forth. I'm going to do it. You gotta go slow until it's attached, and you can stretch it out so because the fabric doesn't bunch up. I am now on the head box or foot box. I've stitched half of it and coming back now, so I just want to show you how I'm doing this. So basically this is the inside of the tent right here. That's the ground sheet, the tub, okay. And this is the inside of the roof, the lip that we're gonna attach. Just gonna make sure I keep the netting, the mesh portion stretched a bit so that it gets to the end and I'm not short. I finished the foot panel, foot and head panel attaching to the main roof and the tub. Okay, when you do this, for the 2 stitches should be enough. Leave a bit of a this little triangle size bit not stitched together, because when we're gonna attach the next panel, we're gonna attach part of that panel here, and then you can just overlay it and then stitch it over nicely. Okay, just like I have these two open here. You can see now, but yeah, kind of like this. Open ends, and then you close it. And in this case, this is inside, right? So that's the outside part. And you're gonna close it in and stitch it along this, kind of like that. Right. So just finishing up the second side. I did the second side door panel, mesh panel, and then I'm connecting that to the head and foot panel here. One of the things, I've had a little bit left more on this side, so I cut a little bit off and then rolled extra piece here, and I'm just gonna stitch it. This is the corner, okay, and it's a difficult area to work with because everything's pulling and you have to take the tent inside out. Make sure it stays properly. Okay, so you notice I'm putting this almost at the bottom. The reason is sometimes you might need to put a stake through it. I think because the top is being held by the mesh, we can attach a guideline or a shock cord to stretch the bottom out to the stake at the back of the tent. 2 pieces of webbing in that corner material is pretty thick. So I might go slow. Oh. Should be enough. That's how it looks. Let me get the light. So one thing I forgot during the main construction time is the pockets. So I made 2 of these pockets from the mesh. Basically just one piece folded over and stitched the pocket on the inside. All right, let's do another one and finish the project. Now, for the moment of truth. And the total weight is 1,048 grams. That's 37 ounces or just slightly over a kilo. The final step in this process is sealant to the seams. You can see some freshly applied stuff here. I'm using a brush like this, a small brush like this. I had a lamp so I could see things. Here's the corner that I've just finished. It should dry in about 8 to 12 hours. So I'll just apply some here so you can see. One smooth motion. I'm using a sill net, but I'm actually diluting it with the white spirits paint thinner, and easier to apply and also seep in right into the threads.
been 8 hours since the tent was set up, and so far so good. We have no drips other than some condensation. You could kind of see it here. I've got some condensation a little bit on the walls, but no obvious drips or anything like that. Nothing along the seams, holding up well. Maybe. So these are the seams. I see nothing is leaking. It's been raining all day today. The tent set up since 5 p.m. and it's 1 a.m. now. I'm most worried about the ground because it's only a 30D sil nylon, but so far you see droplets forming on the outside.
So it's the next morning, 8 a.m. and it's been about 15 hours. As you can see, lots of water on the outside, and it's actually quite dry on the inside. What are you doing? You little rat. Come here. This is Hey, look. Come here, you little rat. You little rat. It is a 2-person and a 2 vestibule tent. It uses the poles for holding up and stakes. There are 4 doors. Each can be opened up depending on the wind conditions, and good ventilation with mesh and waterproof tub. The tent is made of the silpoly material. I believe this is a 20D silpoly material. The bottom is 30D, I believe, silnylon. Very slippery kind of material, good for waterproofing. The tent has 2 doors on the mesh doors with each zipper, so each person can get out and not disturbing the other person. And it uses the guidelines to tighten the walking sticks, walking poles. It's got guidelines to tighten it. I have extra on with for the windy conditions. It's got the dongles for rolling up the doors. There's a couple of different ways to, of course, set it up, but I'm using the stakes in this and tightening with this guideline. Alternatively, if it's really wet conditions or really windy, you could just put a stake through the D-ring itself. That way the height of this is going to be lowered. Okay. Now I also have, this one came off, a shock cord to attach to there. To stretch it, it's not connected here right now. You can see, I've got a shock cord
cord here at the top, 5 or 6 little spacings where you could attach things like glasses, dry your socks and whatnot. But you see all throughout is really good ventilation. If you open, especially if you open the side doors on each side, then it's a nice cross breathe here. You can see this is the new air thermarest. If I put it to the top here, we still have this much room left. So what we've done actually overnight, this night we set up a bunch of our personal stuff here, and still had a bunch of room. I also have I've made these pockets you're gonna hang for the phone or whatnot. So I'll just show you things with the doors closed. Of course, there's different ways of attaching this. You can have your separate pegs. I prefer to use this big one. I have this big one with the nice round rings can hold on to. Okay, so the tent. It's got overlapping doors. Okay, you can see here. Nice and tight. It's got reinforced corners. You can see a different color. That's silicone. Lots of reinforcement stitching. This part here is a mistake in cutting, so I had to add a piece. That's where your doors roll up. You can see the sealing of the seams. It doesn't look too bad actually. Oh. Nicely sealed. The reinforced corners as well here. And I use a thin webbing here. This loop I have made for attaching guy line in high wind conditions. You can tighten it. You see it tightens or let it go completely. I've added these loops so you could also put stakes like this if you really want to close it down in windy conditions. Second door. So we've got a connector here. The size of the vestibule, so you can see, is, judging by this sleeping bag, it's pretty good. You could put your boots and you could put your backpacks. That's what we've actually had done. I could maybe show you like this. This night it was a little bit windy, not too strong, and it held beautifully, not too flappy or anything like this.